Well, Lashpreneurs, today's a big day. Today's an exciting day. Today's a milestone kind of day. Y'all, this is the 300th episode of the podcast. What? What? Yes, y'all have been listening to me talk for 300 episodes. How many of y'all are OGs? Right. So I started this podcast back in 2018. I want to say March of 2018. And really the reason I started the podcast was because I was creating too much content. So back then, I was still a baby Lashpreneur trying to figure out how to get this to be a business. So I was writing weekly blogs. I was then writing weekly emails to go with the blogs. Then I was writing content posts for Facebook and for Instagram, and creating a course. So it was just like content. And I had kind of learned about repurposing content. And a way to simplify it was to create a podcast and then build out a team to repurpose the podcast clips into a blog or a vlog, and emails that went around with that you drove for people to go watch the podcast. So really it was a means of just trying to simplify how much content I was personally creating and how to minimize my time spent in content creation by me focusing on creating the podcast and then building out a team to distribute the rest. And 300 episodes later, I'm happy to say we've done that. I have an amazing team that handles the podcast and the content repurposing. So shout out to Sarah and Say for helping me get this beast out into as many ears, eyes, and people as possible. So today we're going to do something fun. I really wanted to do something reflective of the journey. So we're going back to several different episodes, just kind of clips here and there for me to in real time reflect on what was happening at that time, the episode itself. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes that my team has selected. I have no idea what these episodes are. I have not gone back and watched them. So we're going to go through them in real time together. I'm not going to have you listen to all of the 5 episodes. That would be, I don't know, probably a 2-hour long podcast. And I like to keep these short, sweet, and to the point. But I will definitely kind of give you a behind the scenes look of what was going on, what the theme was of that episode, and even just how things have progressed since then. So from my heart to you, thank you so much for being on this journey with me. This has been a beautiful way for us to connect regularly. I can't tell you how amazing it is when I show up to live events or I get your guys' DMs of like, oh, I've been listening to your podcast forever. This seems to be where we create a connection. And then if you've become a student of mine or we've met in person, it really is a beautiful full circle moment to realize there are people who listen to this. Because I don't know if y'all have ever thought about this, but these episodes are me just talking to myself in my home, in my office. So it's a lot of hoping it reaches somebody on the other side of it, but you're just not really sure. So let's get into the first episode. I believe it's episode 1. So this would be going back to March of 2018. So let's see what I have to say for March 2018. Oh my gosh. Okay. So it says episode 1, top 3 mindset shifts to be taken seriously as a business owner. And it's facebook.com/Lashpreneur. So I forgot that's how the podcast started. I would do Facebook lives and then we would strip the audio of that and put that on a podcast. And then we'd also take the video and put it on YouTube. So man, I was doing Facebook lives and let's just see how this goes.
Hello and welcome, my fellow Lashpreneurs, to the first episode of Lessons of a Lashpreneur live show.
Okay, so if you're not watching the video version of this, my hair is my natural color, which is a very deep dark brown. It is very long. I am in a townhome that I lived in for 10 years, but haven't lived there since 2019. 2019. Gosh, I just had my baby. My daughter was she would have been 4 or 5 months old at this point, and the makeup is heavy and the audio and video quality is not so great. And that hello and welcome, my fellow Lashpreneurs is like nails on a chalkboard to me. It's so cheesy, but that's how it starts. Let's see what else I have to say.
You, a lash artist who is also a business owner, could you use some guidance or direction on how to run a lash business and stop having clients kind of walk all over you? Maybe you have chronic issues with problem clients that you need help with. And that's what today's episode is all about, is the top 3 mindset shifts we need to take as business owners to be taken seriously in our lash business.
Taken seriously, y'all. So I'm reading off of notes that I wrote. I forgot about that too. I used to write out the entire episode because I didn't trust myself or didn't have enough experience to be able to riff like I do now and just go with wherever my brain goes. So in this episode, I can tell I'm reading, and that's why it sounds very canned and very robotic. There's not much personality to it. I was also crazy nervous because it was going live. So people are like jumping on, not many people, maybe my mom, jumping on live, watching me live, as opposed to now it's pre-recorded for the most part. And so, yeah, it's very structured. Let me kind of get into the meat and potatoes. You're a service provider, you're not an employee. You are the one in charge. Let's see what I have to say about you being in charge.
You are the one in charge. So if you are unhappy with your current environment, whether that's the salon you're in, whether that's the salon suite, whether you don't like your coworkers, whether you have clients that are constantly chronically late and you continue to allow them, or they're walking all over you, you are the one who's going to change that. So I had this kind of aha moment of empowerment, and I'm the one in control, kind of by accident, with the birth of my son. He came out at 10 pounds out the old fashioned way. In no way, shape, or form did I ever think that my body was possible of A, growing a 10-pound kid, and B, pushing one out the old fashioned way. And after 44 hours of labor, I was done. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was checking out. I screamed to everybody in the room, like, you have to help me. I can't do this. I think they call that transition. I even stopped pushing at one point because I was just done. So through that time when I stopped pushing and I was like, nope, they're going to have to figure it out on their own because I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm checking out. Didn't really work. They don't tend to really, the body doesn't stop laboring. And so I had this very clear moment in my head where I knew it was just me. I had to figure it out. I had to do it. Nobody else was going to come and save the day. There's no Prince Charming that comes into your business and was like, sure, I'll take out the trash, and sure, I'll categorize your expenses, and sure, I'll respond to that bad Yelp review.
But there is the Lashpreneur. I'm having this really beautiful moment of this woman right here. I'm very proud of her. Not to get too personal, but I was in a miserable spot back then. It was really hard. And the next couple of years, she had no idea what was ahead of her in the next couple of years. And to even look back at how much I was showing up and serving people despite being lost in my own personal life and figuring out this business thing. Here's the thing, y'all, that's like super important for longevity in anything you do is having purpose behind it. And this chick had purpose. She couldn't have possibly imagined the way that her business, her life, her family would evolve and change over the next, God, 6 years. And I can tell I'm timid in my voice. I'm not confident. I feel super young, although in this video, I'm probably 34. I'm 40 now. And I just admire her for trying, for even just showing up and trying and for putting herself out there despite the chaos that's going on that you can't see. Yeah, I was a shell of a human back then, but I still showed up to serve. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway from this episode. And I still teach to a lot of that stuff. And I forgot about that story that I used to share a lot with my son. That, basically I had to channel my inner strength, my higher self, and just go, it's on me to get this child out safely. So find whatever you got inside you to make it happen. And that really became a moment of empowerment for me when I birthed a 10-pound kid and everything inside of me wanted to quit. The power of the mind. That was like the first time that seed was planted for me of like, oh, I can do hard things. My brain wanted to quit and I still made it happen. And I wanted that high, that feeling, that dopamine rush from that to spread that with everyone else, that I could possibly help any woman feel that way in their business. So cool. All right, let's move on to the next episode. Okay, so this one was, I think, about 5 years ago. I'm just looking at the picture and the thumbnail on this. I look like I'm angsty in this one. I've got like some bright red lipstick. I've got short hair. I still had my natural hair color because I had young kids, but I look pissed in this thing. And the title of the episode is "The Mindset That's Costing You Major Success." It's kind of, isn't that the same thing as episode 1? But this was episode 38, so it had been maybe about, gosh. Well, at this point, I can tell I'm in a different office. So at this point, behind the scenes, my ex-husband and I had separated at this point. I moved in with my parents and had an office near their house. And this is when the Lashpreneur really started taking off. We were doing about $30,000 a month. I was working like 70 hours a week. And I remember coming home, my daughter she was under 1. She might have just turned 1. And I remember coming home to like bathe her at night. I was like, this is the only time I've seen her all day. And what am I doing? on the outside, I was super successful, right? Like checking all the boxes, and on the inside, my life and my mindset was crumbling. And I think the red lipstick is kind of my FU to life at that moment. But it's a harsh look. There's no joy in that face. So let's see if the episode's any different. Yikes. Ah, the intro music. So many people are not the driver in their life. They are the passenger of their life. They watch life just pass them by. And today we're going to talk about how that mindset is what's costing you major success, a lot of money, and causing you a lot of struggle unnecessarily in your business. And I'm going to share with you how taking a perspective of the possibilities in life and the possibilities in your business, instead of focusing and fighting so hard for your circumstances, is what's going to transform you into the business owner that you want to be. Okay. So I kind of know this episode. So that concept of focusing more on what's possible instead of your current circumstances. The very first time I had a conversation with my business coach, my longtime mentor, James Wedmore, has taught me 99% of the things that I know. And so a lot of my life now is just a pay it forward reflection of how he's poured into me over the years. But the very first time I had it was a comment exchange with him considering joining one of his programs, because I didn't really know him well before that. That was the response he was giving me, because I was weighing another person's program around the same price point, which was about $3,000, and his program, which was still about 2 months away, that was also $3,000. And so I said, I barely have enough money. I don't even think I had enough money at that point for one program, much less both. Which one do you recommend I start with, knowing it may take me a year or two before I get to be able to afford the second one. Do you think I should take your program and just screw this other one? And he was like, well, that's a pretty black and white kind of narrow thinking. I'm paraphrasing, but he did say, what about the possibility or the future of both things working out? Why does it have to be one or the other? That's very limited thinking. And I was like, what do you mean? Tell me more. And he really shifted my perspective. The very first time he ever shifted my perspective, and now that's what I do all day long based on what he's taught me, was, well, what if you invested in one and it worked out great that you could afford the other, and then both of them really contributed to massive amounts of growth? What about the reality of that? What could that look like? And it was such an interesting, different way to look at something of like, I was looking at scarcity. This is only what I have. Therefore, I can't afford, two programs, much less one program. And shifting it to go, if I know these programs are going to help me, it's not a matter of if I join, but how, and getting creative in problem solving, in, how can I get money quickly? And coming from a solution mindset as opposed to a problem focused mindset. And sure as shit, what do you know? I invested in both of those programs. It was over a period of like 2.5 months. So essentially I was $6,000 into these programs and launched the Lashpreneur Society. Took it from marketing mastery club was a course I had. I threw that into a membership, and launched it following the way that both of these programs taught me how to launch and how to host a membership. And that first month I did $13,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Yes. So that really was like a full circle moment, is looking at what's possible, because if I had only invested in one, I don't know what my results would have been, but it certainly wouldn't have been more than doubly paying off and getting a 2x return on investment on those programs, much less the trajectory that sent me on, because we did $13,000 recurring monthly revenue. So every month it was $13,000. And granted, yes, we had some drop off, but about 6 months later, I launched again. And that's when I did $30,000 a month in recurring monthly revenue. And we've just kind of grown from there. So, it's such an interesting way to look at investing and return on investment and continuing education and investing into yourself and your development. Because had I not joined James's program that was June of 2018, just to kind of give you some hindsight of the biggest investment I had ever made. And we didn't really have, I think the Lashpreneur was just barely breaking even, if not losing money. So it wasn't like I had, $6,000 in the bank or $3,000 in the bank to throw towards this. It was like a Hail Mary kind of a thing. The Lashpreneur has done, maybe 2 million since then, based on what I teach in those programs, or what I learned from those programs. I have gone through every program of James's, and last year he hired me on to be a coach of his. So now he pays me to coach in this program that I signed up for. And the relationships and connections have been stellar, like super, super life-giving, both in business and personal. But honestly, who I am today is a direct reflection of that man. He will never take credit for it, and I love him for that. But I would not have the perspective. I would not have gotten through my divorce. I would not have gotten through my healing journey without that connection with him, without being exposed to his way of teaching and his way of living, even from a distance. Like, I've had very few one-on-one conversations with James over the years, but enough to have made a massive impact. So my life is very much a direct reflection of my involvement in those programs of his and my involvement with him. And had I let the scarcity of money in that one decision stop me from investing, the entire trajectory of my life would be different. And it's so interesting to kind of think back of like how powerful and how oblivious I was to the importance of that decision, but that you just kind of lean into it going like, I trust it. I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know why it's going to work out, but like I feel called that this is the right next step. And now being very spiritually connected, very self-aware, I don't have to have everything figured out, even when things are scary, even when things, if numbers aren't going the way you want them to go, or things are getting tight, or, it's that doom and gloom. You also have to balance it with what is also possible, what also could be in the works that's actually working for your betterment, and that everything is happening for you and not to you. And while I don't remember the rest of this episode, but just that one little tidbit is exactly the perspective that I consistently still use of like, yep, there's doomsday thinking, there's worst case scenario thinking, and I need to balance that with what is also possible. What are the good things that could happen? What if this blew my mind and it was better than I could have ever imagined? And I know we've shared a lot of those stories on our podcast episode of our students. It is a big financial investment for some of our programs, like big, sometimes the biggest one that anybody has made joining that. And I take that responsibility very seriously, that I understand you're investing a significant amount of money. And I also know, our programs are the shit. They will help you make more money. And also, I know that your time and exposure to the way that we teach and the way that we think and the mindset work we do and your belief in yourself and your ability to emotionally regulate yourself in good times and bad is well worth the squeeze of any sort of investment into our programs. I can promise you that. I have developed these coaches in these programs alongside myself. They are my confidants. They are allowed to coach me. I let very few people speak into my life. They can speak into my life because they get it and they are non-judging. They know the strategies on how to get you into a productive and performative and producing state if that's what you need. They know how to create empathy and hold space for you in really, really hard times of processing, childhood stuff that comes up. I mean, your business is a direct reflection of you, right? And personal development on steroids. So we support you in you as a whole human inside of these programs. And I don't know if we do a good enough job of marketing that, but your overall development as a woman, much less a business owner or mom or wife or whatever label you fall under, but who you are as an individual is our greatest joy and privilege, that we get to speak into that and help you really step into your most authentic self and have a lot of fun along the way. So, all right, well, 40 seconds into that episode, that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, Lordy, this one. So this is the first episode back after I shut down the business for 4 months. So if you started listening in like late 21 or 22, 23, 24, surprise, I shut the business down for 4 months. I shut it down in February of 2021 due to depression, due to a failing marriage, I was hitting rock bottom. And so I thought, well, the last thing that can go before my marriage is the business. Spoiler alert, it was the marriage that needed to go. But this was my first episode back, because really what happened behind the scenes, if you haven't heard me talk about it, is I made a public announcement on Instagram that I was shutting it down, and I was going to keep my membership, the Lashpreneur Society, the only program we had at the time, really open for about 4 months until I could shut it down. I wanted to give people time to get in there and watch the content and, implement it, but that it was going to go away. I think I was planning on like end of April or May to shut it down when I publicly went quiet after February. And I had such an outpouring on Instagram. I think there were over 400 comments at the time of people like sharing just how much I'd impacted their lives. And part of me was like, what? Where have all you been? Because again, I do so much of this alone, right? Speaking at a screen. So it just really humanized the impact the business had had. And so I had let my team go like 2 weeks before that. And then I made the announcement and then really just kind of like sat with it for like a week or two. And at that time, right around that time, I had another company reach out looking to acquire the business. And that was like best case scenario. It was like, sweet. Like everything that I've worked for can now, maybe it can take care of me. Maybe it can, um, maybe it can pay itself off, right? That I can get some money out of this. And, all of the past 4 or 5 years that I've been doing it at that time can pay off. And it was through the process of, I don't know if you've ever gone through trying to sell a business, but you kind of have to prove what the value and the worth is. And so I had to go through the financials. I had to show the growth. I had to get all the processes together to be like, this is what the business is, because so much of the Lashpreneur is tied to Tara, right? And my face and kind of being a brand of me. And so I had to figure out a way to like get it to be separate from me, that another company could acquire it and run with it. And so through that journey of doing that, I recognized just how much value and how much I had in place that I just couldn't really see before shutting it down, that the business had, and how many processes there were, and how many how valuable the programs were, and the testimonials and the case studies and the students and it was just like, wow, I was really proud of it at that point. And I was like, well, what the heck? Um, why wasn't it working to the way that I thought it should be working? And kind of gone through the process with this company, and we just had a couple of discovery calls, just seeing if, what it could look like. But ultimately I saw the value in it, and I thought, what if I just came back and it just paid me $5,000 a month, right? And I could just get it to where it was very part-time work, and that was the income that it brought in. Like, would that be okay? Like, could I settle for that and that be enough? Because, I'd spent so many years building this out to like completely walk away from it. Seemed a little premature. Although clearly I was willing to do it. At one point I thought, I'll create a YouTube gardening channel, right? Like I'll just be like an influencer gardener. I knew nothing about gardening. I just started during the pandemic and I really enjoyed it. But I was like, I'll just start a gardening channel. Uh, so, the things you think when you're in a not so great headspace. So that's what I committed to. I said, I'm going to try and simplify the business. I'm going to get it to just produce $5,000 a month. Like that'll be great. And we'll just go from there. And sure enough, as soon as I came back, we recorded this episode, and then I went all in back into it and love it, and really focused and shifted into data-based decision making, because the emotion-based decision making was what kept me on the roller coaster the previous few years. So and Britt interviewed me on this. So this was the first time I think I had been interviewed on the podcast, and I wanted somebody that could handle this conversation with delicacy, because it did involve some mental health stuff, and somebody that I trusted being vulnerable and comfortable with. And that's my girl, Britt Siva. I've always looked up to Britt. She was also a student of James Wedmore. She is the hairstylist business coach version of me. She's just an all-around amazing soul. And so she was the one that I asked to do this, and she did a great job. So let's kind of, let's listen to the first few minutes and see how it goes. Here we are. Britt Siva and Tara, first podcast interview. First podcast back after 4.5 months.
And truly, it's my honor to be here sitting beside you for this moment. I'm humbled to be here. I told you that from the beginning. We're gonna dig deep today.
Yeah, I have given Britt full permission to. There's nothing off topic. There's nothing I won't talk about. If I cry, I cry. It's just one of those things. But I'm excited and nervous to share the journey that I've been on, what led up to walking away, what I've been doing for 4.5 months, and what it's like to kind of get back into the swing of things, and the mindset shift that I've had to make in order to be okay with coming back.
Yeah. I just want to honor the fact that this is such a huge gift to anybody who listens to this episode, anybody who's been a part of your world, and certainly a gift to me. I think that what you're doing is so beautiful and inspiring, and I know you're going to touch a lot of hearts. I'm excited to be here for the journey.
I mean, that's the hope, right? If I can just, I had to remind myself of that last night as I was getting a little bit nervous about, wow, now I'm really having to put myself back out there again, which even if you've been doing this for years, like we both have, there's still this kind of nerve of like,
pressure, I guess, and it's self-inflicted, but if I can just make one person's day a little bit brighter, then this was a totally worthwhile adventure.
Totally agreed. And let's get into our journey together. But I want to say, like, I think even that was such a vulnerable share and like so real. I think people assume you or I or people who have been doing this for a while have it all figured out. And we have like the confidence is always on a level 10 and we never have a bad day and we never doubt ourselves. And that's just bullshit. Like that's not true.
100%.
And so I think to give everybody the real is going to be powerful.
Yeah. So let's get into it. What do we got?
Let's do it. Okay, so for me, I want to go back. So I want to talk about how I realized that you had fired yourself, and I'll tell everybody how we met. So Tara and I met. It's been a couple years. First of all, 2020 seems like it doesn't count. So for some, that was a year, and then I think there was another year. But a few years ago, we met backstage at an event.
It was actually last year.
Was it really?
Oh wait, no, it would have been 2019. It would have been, yeah, BBD 2019.
See, told you, 2020 doesn't count. That's what I'm saying. So it feels like last year, exactly. So it feels like a year ago, but it was probably 2. And it was like fast friends. Tara came up to me and she was like, hey, I feel like we should connect. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And ever since, like, you're my girl. And there was this instant trust factor. And so what our relationship looked like is we were just kind of touch base with each other from time to time, exchange voice memos. Yeah.
At least on my end, it was total fangirling. Like, love the episode.
All right. Let me kind of go into where we get into the meat and potatoes of it and start sharing kind of the little behind the scenes, because this I haven't watched since it was released. So this came out in June of 2021, and this recording is September of 2024. So 3 years. Holy cannoli.
Your podcast, but that's like that's almost like our dirty little secret as educators that 2020 could have destroyed just about all of us. There's an economic downturn. The confidence you have in yourself hits an all-time low. And to exactly what you're saying, people don't realize that when you show up just digitally, you don't get that real-time feedback. And with that shared mentor we had, when you're coached to keep pulling back, keep detaching, that is amplified times 100, and it is terrifying, and it's not authentic to either you or I. So I'm on that similar journey of like reconnecting and falling in love with all my people all over again. I so echo everything you're saying. 2020 was a trip. And so tell us, like, what was the breaking point? When were you like, nope, I literally can't even show up? Like, you tried to fight through that live on Christmas, but when did you hit the point where you're like, I don't even want to do this?
I got COVID mid-January. My husband, so when we moved to Tennessee, like my husband, part of his mental health gets released and like really solid when he does jujitsu. So we knew the risks going into it, that there was no socially distancing. And to me, the benefit of him being able to do that consistently was far outweighing the risks that we had, as you know, people who we weren't really all that in the high risk category. So it was something that honestly, if he wasn't able to do jujitsu, which he wasn't in California, it was toxic to our whole life. So he did that, and then that's how he got it. Was a guy had COVID, but he didn't know until the next day. And then I got it the worst out of our family. Luckily, I was not, I was never hospitalized, anything like that. My sister-in-law's a surgeon, so I was constantly messaging her, just like checking in, is there anything I need to do? But it was like, I remember when my husband tested positive for it, and we had there was like, we quarantined, but we were all going to get it if somebody had it. I was like prepping meals, all this kind of stuff, because I knew it was going to take me out, and we don't have a support system here. And I wouldn't have even flown my parents out because that would have been risking them, and they hadn't had the vaccine yet and all that. So it amplified everything I was already feeling. I remember the week before, here's the whole manifesting universe part showing up, sobbing on the floor, and my therapist being like, I wish something would happen to me where people didn't have to rely and be so dependent on it. And that happened.
Even that statement alone, and I don't know how many of y'all can resonate with that you kind of just keep pouring out of the cup. You're not filling your own cup, and you just keep pouring out, and you kind of get to the point where you're like, I wish everybody could just figure it out on their own. So whatever needs to happen to me, that they have to go do that I don't have to make that choice, that I can just, like, something would happen to me that everybody could figure it out because I'm done. Oh, I still feel that to this day, how hard that moment was, being on the floor in my bathroom crying and telling my therapist that. And then the next week getting COVID, where essentially I remember this dark moment in our guest bedroom because I was trying to stay away from the kids. My husband at the time had kind of gotten through it. He had kind of gotten to the tail end of COVID, and it hit me worse. It hit my back really hard. I remember just being in their shower, in my kids' shower, like with the water scalding hot, and the pain just would not go away. And I just remember being in so much pain in this dark room and just thinking like, well, you got what you asked for, and you're miserable in pain, but you're not going to go to the hospital because, there's plenty of sick people in the hospital with actual like life-threatening situations. And pain meds is not touching it. And your husband is taking care of the kids. So it's, oh my gosh, I just kind of made this connection. It was like the same moment when I was giving birth to my son that was kind of like your body is in significant pain and it wants to give up. And the only thing left is like, what, do you just give up? Like I didn't want to give up. Even though I was depressed, I just didn't want to go back to the life that I created. Like I didn't want to go back to being the Lashpreneur. I didn't want to go back to being a wife. I didn't want to go back to being a mom. I didn't know who Tara was at that point. And so when you're at that low of a point, at least for me, like I didn't want to kill myself. And I want to be very clear about that. It was not to that level. If you're at that level, that's definitely a time to reach out and get help in that moment instantly. Put your ego aside and to go, I'm not okay. I didn't get to that point, but I kind of gave myself permission in that moment to say, F it. Like whatever needs to happen from here forward, like let go of what you thought it was going to be, let go of the pressure that you've put on yourself or the disappointment you think other people will have. It was very much heavily immersed in people pleasing, not wanting to disappoint my students, my clients, my husband, my kids, my parents, my family, my like just everybody else. I didn't want to disappoint them, but it was like, what about me? I lost me in that. I even looking back at this girl, while she had been on quite a journey at this point, she was still freaking lost. And it took, unfortunately for my situation, it took leaving a marriage. And that's not to say that he's a really good dude, like a super good dude. We just did not go well together at all as husband and wife. And we were both drowning at this point, and neither one of us could save the other person. And so I kind of had this analogy of like we're a ship sinking, and I can't keep scooping out the water because it's coming in faster than I can get it out of the boat. So we're all going into the water, and I'm going to get me and my kids trying to get them over to safety, and he's got to learn to swim for himself. That was kind of the mindset that I had at that point because we had been struggling for a very long time. Really, since we had a miscarriage in 2012, that's kind of when we both recognized things shifted, but we loved each other and we were committed and we tried to make it work. And then we had kids and like, it just, blah. But in hindsight, after 3 years, so about 2 months later is when I asked for the divorce and went on a healing journey. And that, as painful as divorce can be, and breaking up a family and doing it in a state where you have no support system, and you work virtually, so you're like alone a lot of the time, was really pivotal for me to find myself again and to be able to detach the meaning I had placed on a business and its results and its success, and get it, I'm a single mom, like taking care of my kids. The business had to produce. It has been such a beautiful journey, as many as ups and downs as it was those first couple of years after coming back. Even now, I love finding new layers, like new stressors that come in, or even the same stressors that just keep happening. You're like, what the heck? Why do I keep going through the same thing? Because there's something to learn about you in that. And until you learn that lesson, you will keep repeating those cycles and those beliefs and those pain points. And what I've learned now in hindsight is the faster I can learn a lesson and the more lessons I can learn, the more rock solid I am in me. I haven't publicly shared this on the Lashpreneur, but I actually have a completely separate TikTok account where I speak to mindset, personal relationships, healing journey that has skyrocketed. Like that thing is growing faster than I can keep up with. One week I had 5,000 new followers, right? Like content is hitting. You're welcome to follow me over there. Just DM me about it because I don't want to put it out there too publicly quite yet to this audience. But if you want to know what that is, you can DM me and I'll share the link to that TikTok account. But it's got tens of thousands of followers on there, and it's got people DMing me by the masses that I can't keep up with it. But it's because I have reached a level of self-awareness and healing and peace in my life. It doesn't mean that I don't experience pain, stress, problems. It means that I know how to shift my perspective out of them where I don't stay stuck in that long, right? Where I honor my body, I honor myself so that I don't have to go through this season again. This was a really, 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 really hard season where I had to let go of everything in my life, other than my kids. Like that was kind of the only thing that I maintained was protecting my kids during this season. But my marriage fell apart, my personal life fell apart, my business fell apart, my body fell apart. Like I'm 40 pounds heavier here because I used food to comfort myself. I used food as a means of handling the anxiety. I had used alcohol before we moved to Tennessee. I'd have like a bottle of champagne while everybody else is making bread. I'm making bread. I'm like, okay, bread and champagne, cool. Just to numb myself enough to get through a day. It was a tough season. Like I look at this girl and I can tell she's wearing the stress on her body, right? Every time I see photos of myself during that time when I'm so much heavier and I didn't know how to take care of my body or my mind or my family or myself, I'm reminded that my coping skills were terrible. I didn't know what coping skills were. I didn't know how to support my body and my mind during this time frame. And I'm so grateful that this little lady right here who was going through so many struggles stuck with it and learned those tools, because that's what I help people with now is those tools that worked for me. I can help and support people through that. The healing journey, the self-awareness journey, the perspective shifting, the breath work. I mean, all of that was happening during this season. And I'm really proud of her. I'm sad for her. I'm really, really sad for her because I know how much she's hurting, even coming back, and even sharing the story. But I'm really proud of her for sticking with it, because the version of me would not be as confident, as solid in myself, as capable, as impactful had she not gone through the pain and like leaned into it. Most people don't do what she did. Most people avoid, numb, distract, which were her tools prior to this. But she leaned into learning tools to help support her mind, her body, for her to have a really peaceful existence, right? It's not always great. It's got lots of ups and downs, lots of stressors, but I'm really proud of her and I'm really proud of me now. Oh, this I'm so glad we did this. I wasn't expecting it to be like super cheesy, but it's awesome. All right, so apparently this is an episode we had a lot of listens to, and I have no context. The best thing I've ever learned to do for myself. Oh, I don't know. Let's see what she's got.
Hey, Lashpreneurs, happy Friday to you. We are going to talk about kind of the mindset stuff that has really, really been powerful for me in growing a business, running a business, even affecting my everyday life. The thing that I think everybody, not just business owners, but everybody should have a grasp on. So I'm going to share that today.
Oh, I'm excited. What is it?
The best thing I've ever done for myself is learned how to shift perspective.
What do you know?
I
Just having a full circle moment here. Again, I had no idea what my team was getting to me, and they just were going off of stats of what was popular. So I think we're sensing a theme here is shifting perspectives, and to layer on top of this would be breath work. But I had learned breath work. I wasn't doing it regularly, and I think I'm still married in this episode. Yeah, my ex is in the back because I haven't lost the weight yet. So this will be interesting. Tara, pre losing the weight and like really learning how to shift perspectives, what she has to say.
initially started learning about this from a coaching perspective, because a lot of coaching is taking people's limiting beliefs or the thoughts that they think and finding different ways to help them feel empowered after talking through their beliefs. And I've done a lot of therapy and I've done a lot of trainings in this. It makes me a really effective coach, but it also, yes, has helped me significantly. And so there are a couple of trainings that you can look into if this is something that you're fascinated about. And, it's called neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, or sleight of math. So you've heard sleight of hand with magic. It's kind of the same thing, is that it's just different techniques on shifting people's perspectives.
Oh, love this. I didn't even know I talked about this. So neuro-linguistic programming is the basis of my coaching and how to shift perspective. So kind of to summarize what it is and how I utilize it and what I've trained my coaches in as well is the words that you use. So the linguistics, the words, really indicate the belief you have in your head. And this is what I've gotten really good at as a coach, both in business and in life coaching, because think about how you think in your head. And then whatever you think in your head, you put through a filter before the words come out of your mouth. And you think about what is societally acceptable for me to say. And what I do as a coach in a coaching context, so in a coaching conversation, right, where you're consenting to coaching and I am agreeing to being a coach, right? That's the main thing, that if we don't have that, then coaching doesn't work and it's not effective and it violates boundaries. Like, this is why it's hard to coach people in your real world, like your partner or your kids. Like, they don't want coaching from their mom or their partner. So it has to be in a coaching conversation where both parties are consenting that this is going to be coaching, like kind of just like a therapist doesn't want to be, trying to psychoanalyze somebody they're on a date with. Like, you have to be in the context of we're having therapy. So in those situations, you will share kind of what's keeping you up at night, what you're struggling with, what you're stressing with. And I don't know if you guys, if you haven't seen me do coaching, I am writing. Either I'm taking notes on the screen or I'm writing out things, and I'm just writing statements that you say as I start to get an intuitive nudge of, oh, there's something there. And there's this really cool thing that happens to me that, again, I don't know if I've shared this publicly, but I will get chills. So to me, that's my connection with source of like, oop, there's something, lean into it. So I'll get a physical response when there's something I need to lean into. It's just kind of my intuitive knowing of like, there's something behind that word or that sentence that they said. And so I'll even pause somebody and go, wait, tell me more about that. Why did you say that? What does that mean to you? Right. And as a coach, a lot of my job is just asking questions for you to get clarity. It's not for me to tell you the 10 steps to do X, Y, Z. That's teaching, right? If I'm teaching you a step-by-step or a process, that's teaching. But coaching to me is more so getting you clarity on what you want and how you're going to get there. And sure, I can give you some advice or teach some strategies if it's a very clear result that you're looking for. But most of that stuff is really more intangible. Like, I want to feel safe. I want to feel successful, right? They're feelings. And so oftentimes we'll have blocks, beliefs about ourselves, or stories that we've been telling ourselves for years or decades that are holding us back from actually pursuing it. So in the previous episode, when I was sharing my journey of shutting the business down, I had a lot of beliefs that were holding me back, that I had to micromanage my team, that I couldn't do it by myself, that I had to be home by a certain time, or my ex would be upset that like I wasn't helping out with the kids. And, he thought I was a workaholic, but like I was trying to do my best to like support the family because he wasn't working, and trying to support the kids and be everything to everyone. And it was beyond what I could handle at the time. But I thought, well, this is just a season of hustle, or I have to do this. Right. And so oftentimes that neurolinguistic programming is understanding what belief you have about yourself or about a situation, and then using a series of language patterns to challenge and poke holes in those beliefs to kind of dismantle your attachment to that belief and get you to choose a new belief. And so there's a bunch of different ones: chunk up, chunk down, metaphor, all sorts of different ones that if you get trained in neurolinguistic programming, you're just practicing those. But that's what I work with my coaches on, is like putting them in scenarios and like, or having them coach each other. And it's like, okay, use a metaphor. Okay, go use model of the world. So there are different strategies to try to see if we can dismantle a belief that someone has about something that is holding them back. And once you dismantle that belief, that's when they feel free and clear to choose a new belief that serves them to work towards or move towards the ideal result that they want. So that's kind of like coaching 101 on the background of what we're doing psychologically to help someone feel better, to have hope, to shift them into an emotional state that is better than they were before the coaching conversation. So perspective shifting, neurolinguistic programming, that's kind of what that is in the technical speak on the back end. 10 out of 10 recommend it. But you have to learn to use it in appropriate ways. Because technically you could look at it as manipulation. I define manipulation as something that has ill intent, right? You're trying to get a desired outcome for you. Whereas this type of work is more what I would say influence, is that we're presenting new ideas or new ways of looking at something, and you get to choose whether that serves you or not. But you can use it in a way to manipulate other people if you don't have good intentions, to manipulate partners, all that kind of stuff. So it is a very powerful technique, but you're going to want to learn to use it in a way that is helpful and the way that is conducive to you having a relationship with that person, whether it's a client relationship, whether that's a partnership, whatever that is. You've got to respect the tool, if you will. Yeah, love that. Awesome. All right, we are going to get into the last episode that we've got here. And great, love this topic. Your business is not your baby. Identifying an unhealthy codependency with your business. I will say, my main contribution to the demise of my marriage was codependency, people pleasing, and enabling. Wasn't aware of it at the time. I even had my longtime mentor tell me when I was talking about my marriage while I was married, like, you guys have a very codependent relationship. You might want to be careful about that. And I was like, no, we don't. And so I had to learn what codependency was. I had to learn how people pleasing showed up for me. Look at me. I lost the weight. I lost the 40 pounds. So I've gone on my healing journey at this point. So let's see what I have to say about codependency and that your business is not your baby.
Your business is actually not your baby.
Preach.
Today, we're going to talk about having a healthy, independent, not a codependent relationship with your business. If this is your first time joining, my name is Tara Walsh and I'm a business coach for beauty business owners. Your business is not your baby. It's not. You can be pouring your heart into it. You can put a lot of work into it, but it is not actually, in fact, your baby. The meaning that you're putting on calling your business your baby is likely why you're stuck. It's likely why you struggle with things like healthy business boundaries. It's likely why you're not making money, because a business, the whole goal of a business, the reason why a business exists is to make money and to be profitable. And if you're not doing either one of those things, I want you to check in with yourself about your codependency, your emotional needs being met by your business.
Ooh, can you tell the difference of how I'm speaking now versus the first couple of episodes that we watched? Like, this girl knows her shit now. Like, she has lived it. The experience is coming through, and the confidence of, like, this was me. I was very codependent on my business. That's why I shut it down, right? Because I made so much personal meaning on the results of the business, and I couldn't see it for what it was back then. But working on the codependency that I had in my marriage, you take you with wherever you go. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. And how I was treating my marriage was how I was treating my business, and learning to heal the people pleasing, to heal the codependency, to learn how to establish boundaries. I looked at how that had unfolded in my business, and that's why I created this episode. This is actually a repurposed Instagram Live. So let's see what else I have to say about this. This is a good episode.
Now, full disclosure, this was an awareness that came to me about 3 months ago by my friend Nicole Culver. Follow her online, she's genius. But this idea of having an unhealthy codependency on our business really has transformed the way that I even see my business, and even where I'm looking for my business to meet my emotional needs, which then in turn, I can see how many decisions I've made in business that were really poor decisions that cost a lot of money, that caused a lot of stress, because I was looking for an unmet need that I had, and my business fulfilling that. We're about to blow some minds.
She's so dramatic. Yeah, 100%. This is what I speak a lot on that TikTok account about, is codependency, people pleasing. And when you don't have a whole lot of self-love, it's really hard to set boundaries with your business, with your clients, with your family members, with your friends. And so going on a self-love journey, recognizing who you are inside your own head, changing how you talk about yourself, learning to enforce boundaries that protect your peace, that keep you feeling safe, that keep you feeling loved, like, those are really important. And so then you stop looking to anything external to you to meet your internal needs. And that's been, I would say, that's healing 101. Healing, like, if you're healed, actually, I don't know that we're ever fully healed, but you've gone on a very significant healing journey when you no longer look outside of you to meet your internal needs. Like, you want to feel safe, you want to feel secure, you want to feel loved, you want to feel joy, you want to feel peace. All of that starts from the inside, and then your external world will reflect that. It's not everything outside of me has to be a certain way for me to feel a certain way inside. And I can actually prove that to you probably within 5 minutes. I can get you into a physical, emotional state that is much different, that is much more how you want to feel, especially in breath work. Heck yes. How you want to feel, and nothing in your external world have changed. I just had a personal coaching client that I was working with last week, and we had an hour-long conversation. We worked through some exercises and some tools. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, how are you feeling? She started off feeling like a 4 out of 10. Like, she was stressed, she was anxious, she was worried about her marriage. And then by the end of it, she's like, I'm at like an 8 or a 9. And I'm like, cool. Notice how nothing in your external world has changed, just what was inside your head. And your physical state is much different just because of what you thought in your head and the conversations we had and the perspective shifts that we've gone through. But nothing in your external world has changed. She was still sitting in her car in a parking lot, other than I think her dog threw up in the back seat. But that's neither here nor there. But that's how powerful your brain is that it can change your physical state. So you have to learn how to address your physical experience along with the mental experience. Therapy is great for talk therapy, processing through things, connecting the dots of why you may be the way that you are or why things have happened the way that they have. But if you're not also addressing the body, the somatic experience, then you're missing out on 50% of the equation for you to really get over the hump of something that is polarizing or stuck in your system. I am somebody who logic my feelings. I know exactly why they are the way that they are, how they started, where they went. But without breath work, and I'm talking a 60-minute somatic release breath work session, I can't actually let go of the feeling. Even though I can understand the feeling, I can't actually experience different feelings in my body if I'm not addressing the body's experience. So all of that to say, 300 episodes in, this girl has been on a journey. You have been on a journey. We have been on a journey, and we're not stopping anytime soon, sis. So from me to you and from Team Lashpreneur to you, thank you so much for tuning in every week. This is a big commitment. This is a big thing that I took on 6 years ago, and I was committed to doing weekly episodes, and very few times have I failed on that, or not failed. Let's reframe that. Skipped that, and rightfully so when I have. But I am just so honored that you would take time out of your day and out of your week to spend with me, listening to me talk into your little ears as you go to work or as you're lashing or as you're with clients or on a walk. And I appreciate you so much. Really, I truly, truly do. This business would not be what it is without the podcast, and the podcast would not be what it is without you. So yeah, it's beautiful, reciprocal relationship. And so until next week, have a good one.